All right, let's hit it.
Oh my God, what is this?
A new era dawns to fill the void. An unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1.
Final Encounter Cast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncounterCast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
What's up? Welcome to Final Encounter Cast. Thanks for joining us. Twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio starting at 1 p.m. Glad to have you along. We are Twitch TV's first call-in talk show. I'm almost 99% sure of that. Many will follow in our wake, but there is only one original call-in show.
Fucking lames.
That's right. Anyway, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you along. Lots to talk about today. Thanks for joining us. This is episode number 96 of Final Encounter Cast. Just 4 more.
To the hundo.
Yeah, and then the show metamorphosizes into the Let's Be Real podcast. It's like a butterfly. This is its larval stage.
No,
We've been here
it's in its cocoon right now.
That's
it's not
right.
Larval. It's a metapod.
Well, no, I mean that's the thing is that we're not sure if there's going to need to be some cocoon stage downtime in here.
FEC uses harden.
Yeah. There might need to be some of that. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Of course, joining us today, special guest from Checkpoint Radio, Norris. What's going on, Norris?
What's really good, y'all?
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Since Fat couldn't be.
Yeah, he refused to show up
yeah.
because we called him fat too many times.
Couldn't get out the door.
Get owned.
And here's the thing, Norris is sitting in the juxtaposition, which is what we call it's what we call that seat in the studio. Well, no,
It is. It's what we call it.
We defined it on the last episode. It's
Yeah.
sort of like the gorilla position in wrestling, except that's the juxtaposition because you're going to be running phones and drops too. So you're the drop master for today.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Show them how it's done.
Yeah.
Nobody has any faith in you.
This is too much. Like it's like
kind of a lot.
bajillion fucking pages of this.
Oh yeah. And the thing is that we've been asking him to organize that for about 6 weeks so that we can put in a new radio piece of software.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it would be nice.
The most annoying thing is just that there's so few per page. If you could see like 20
That's
at a
what I'm
time,
saying, yeah.
not a big deal.
Yeah. But
Anyway.
I get it.
Anyway, so thanks for joining us. Appreciate having you along. So yeah, we are going to be transforming the show eventually into the Let's Be Real podcast. And we're not totally sure what's going to happen when we do. I mean, I just don't know. Like, I don't have a real good plan for this shit.
You gonna have the same people fucking with you who was fucking with you from beforehand.
It'll probably be pretty much the same, but it'll look different. And I'm hoping that we'll finally be able to take Callie out of the intro as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. I've got to re-image almost all of our stuff because I've got to take him out of the LBR intro as well.
Oh, yeah. Damn it, making so much work for everybody.
I know,
sucks.
right?
You should just bleep him out.
What a
We
dick.
should just keep him there for the memories.
Shut up, Nika.
Why would we do that? He's not
Because
even.
we love
He
him.
doesn't bother to show up anymore.
True that.
No.
I mean, that's the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
And the
well,
fact that
and Juxta, yeah.
Well, because we
felt
realized
the need to
that
procreate.
we can't really do the show with just 2 people, so we needed Norris to show up too.
Well,
that is true.
It is Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, and Nika. Sorry.
It is Super Bowl Sunday, which is actually why Chris isn't here.
He's delivering pizzas.
That's right. Yeah.
In like 6 inches of snow, by the way.
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't sound like fun.
No.
But apparently he makes good money doing it.
Yeah, he does. He
So
On Super Bowl fucking Sunday? Oh, yeah.
does. And in this snow, people are going to feel real sorry for him. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So-
mean, not because of the snow.
no, but I mean, like,
Because of a bunch of other stuff.
yeah. He should have the baby in hand while he's delivering pizzas. Should Be like, this is my stupid baby.
And you're making me do this.
Yeah.
This is why I'm out here.
Anyway, so thanks for joining us. Appreciate having you along. Again, lots to talk about. So let's get right into the news. The news.
I'm
Jesus.
here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
The news.
So in their continuing effort to compete with the likes of YouTube and especially Twitch, Facebook has launched their Gaming Creator Pilot Program. The program is geared towards live streamers looking to make their living performing and streaming games. It allows them to finally broadcast in 1080p and 60 FPS. More features are to be enabled over time, leading the community to ask for things like clipping or direct donations. Facebook has definitely picked up on the direct donation idea, looking into a way to first make it available to select streamers and then to more over time.
Listen, I gotta say, if you're a streamer, maybe don't do this one. This maybe seems, if someone's throwing a exclusive contract at you for Facebook and there's a little bit of money attached to it, hold out for more money than you can imagine.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, again, this is stuff that Twitch is already doing, and I don't know about you guys, but when I look for streaming content, like, Twitch is the place that I go.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No. I mean, the fact that, like, I've always... Mixer, it was too late to the party.
Oh, yeah.
And Mixer's got way more tools underneath them. I mean, like, I'm at the point where, you know, because I don't know how often you guys watch videos on Facebook, but, like, they're starting to insert ads when you get about 20, 30 seconds in.
Yep. They sure are.
I just noticed the quality is always really shitty.
I have completely stopped watching any kind of video content on YouTube.
Their embedded player is awful.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's the worst thing in the world.
It's patently the worst video player.
As a streamer that's, let's say, already either established on Twitch or even just starting out on Twitch, what would possibly make you think, let me go to this website that A, doesn't have the type of audience I'm looking for, and B, has less tools than the site I'm already using?
You geeks are so gullible.
I mean,
that's probably fair.
You know, when
I mean, think about that. It's like, seriously, because when you have streamers and you have this prospect now that this could be turned into a career, which is a fairly new thing in terms of media, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're talking about people throwing numbers at kids that they've never seen before in their lives.
This was something that Omid was talking about during our interview. Yeah, like, you've got the entirety of Sony bargaining against a guy on a farm in Ohio. You know what I mean?
Like, seriously. And so when you have somebody like, you know, YouTube, that's Google, essentially throwing that type of money around saying, oh, we want to restructure stuff and we want to make it easy for gamers, or excuse me, Facebook, we want to make it easy for gamers to stream on the platform. First of all, like, you have no platform pedigree. You don't have the hardware to be able to do it properly right now.
No, what they have is the money to throw at people to get those exclusive deals.
Exactly, and that's my point, is that if you're not gullible and you understand these things and you do some research, you'll understand why this is a, like, horrible idea.
It's a terrible idea. Yeah, no one should be doing this. No streamer who is not already making ridiculous amounts of money should be doing this. And if you are making ridiculous amounts of money, prepare to not be.
Screw the rules, I have money.
You know what I mean? It's gonna, like, this could tank somebody's brand to take themselves off of something like Twitch and to go, I'm only going to be on Facebook. We've said it before, like, that could be a huge boon to the platform, or it could end up tanking that person's brain.
Think about it, even just how you use social media, like, personally, if you're somebody who uses it. There's nobody on earth who says, I use only Facebook. Not one person. There's plenty of people who say, I'm just on Twitter, I'm just on Instagram, I'm just on whatever. Nobody anywhere says, I'm just on Facebook if you use social media.
Right.
Like, point blank period. Nobody, let me say, nobody under the age of 60 Because both my parents only use Facebook.
Right.
My parents are under 60, and they're only on Facebook.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Exactly, yeah.
She said
right.
no one under 60.
Shut up, Nika. You get the point. Jesus
Look at
Christ.
that.
Actually,
Nora's
to be
fitting
fair,
right in.
I didn't actually have an Instagram until maybe a year or two ago.
I still don't have an Instagram.
Yeah,
And
but you have
I
a Twitter.
Twitter. I barely
I
use
have a
it.
Twitter.
You
You're
still
right.
have it,
But you
though.
have it. That's my
I
point.
guess that's true.
Would you consider Twitch social media, or is that strictly streaming media?
I still consider it social media.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Yeah, even if not everybody uses it to that extent, it does have the tools there for
Well,
it.
yeah,
Right.
but that's my point, is that nobody ever says, "Oh, I'm gonna just use Facebook." So if you don't have that type of client base already of people using the service, this shit is dumb.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
A number of UK and Australian game shops are refusing to stock or sell the Xbox One, and amid Microsoft's decision to allow release titles on Game Pass. They say the decision has made the section worthless overnight, since most of the money on a console is made on game sales.
Yeah. Well, I can understand. That seems fairly reasonable.
And remember, this is also following when the Xbox One first released. There were no Japanese retailers that were stocking it either, because nobody over there even buys it.
Yeah, that's due to lack of interest, though.
Yeah, and now the UK is going to stop selling them. Australia's going to stop selling them.
Well, certain game shops.
Okay, but
Certain
the question
game
is,
shops.
do you think that Game Pass is going to go over well enough to offset this?
No, I don't.
They
I
don't
think
have
so.
enough they don't have enough studio power right now.
Yeah, no.
And I mean,
not unless that big rumored Microsoft EA deal goes down, then
right.
Then they might actually. They might actually be able to pull
which
that
is a
off.
big rumor, but it's a rumor big enough not to just write off.
The thing is, though, I still think it was too early to announce his Game Pass stuff, because if something like that did end up happening, how long until you actually start getting the games out to put underneath it?
Yeah, you could be having people paying for a service a year well into it's worth it at all. And that's really not the way to launch anything. So I think by retailers pulling out, which is still the number one which is still a big way people get their consoles.
Yes.
I mean,
maybe not their games, but yeah,
people get their consoles
at the same time. At the same time, though, I would say that if there's going to be retailers that are boycotting it, then wouldn't you think that like big box stores that are completely not involved in this issue would jump in and start to carry more, like, higher quantities, higher stock of it?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, because there's no way, Walmart or Target or somebody like that is going to miss out on an opportunity that large to become essentially like a console monopoly,
right,
if you will.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know how much of an impact this is really going to have, but I do think that you see some of the things that we've been talking about as we continue to talk about, things like day one DLC and day one patches and, continued DLC games as services. This is some of the bullshit that we're seeing. And I think a lot of it is designed to take game shops, brick and mortar game shops, and take them out of business.
Yeah.
I
mean, it cuts out the middleman essentially, and again, the more centralized your profit can be, the less money that has to go between, companies, the better from a retail point of view. I just think in terms of the consumer, talking about the Game Pass, I just don't think it's a good option for consumers right now. And I think after you look at it that way, then no, this is not the right time for them to do this. Maybe if they launched their next console with this and said, hey, this is an option from day one. Here are the studios we have on board. It's like not even enough time for them to make negotiations with other studios.
But here's the thing, though, is that, this is what tanked the idea of console exclusives in the first place, okay? Because if your audience is so fractured that a third-party developer, you're going to need to lay down some serious front cash to be able to broker that kind of exclusive deal. Because now that a lot of these console exclusive deals have started to fade away, and you've got digital distribution. You've got companies that are seeing returns on Steam that are like they're releasing the game for the first time, and it's a game that came out 6 years ago. You know what I mean? The value in being a multi-platform, if you're a third-party developer, is clear. And you now, as the big publishing studio or as the hardware manager, has to plunk down considerable amounts of money to go make it exclusive to our console. So, yeah, there's only one of two options for Microsoft to continue this path forward. They've either got to broker huge deals like the EA deal, or they've got to plunk down serious cash, which, I mean, it's Microsoft, so they might have, to get these exclusives. But that price tag that it was is not the same that it was in like 2003. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Coffee Stain Studios, the creators of the ever-revered Goat Simulator, are looking to promote a bit more gender equality in the gaming world through their Leveling the Playing Field initiative. The plan is geared towards small indie development teams who will be granted funding towards their project if their development team is at least half women. In return, they're asking for a minority stake in the company they invest in, aiming to use any profits garnered to eventually make this initiative self-sustaining.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
this is probably one of the coolest.
That sounds like a win-win.
Of news that I've heard today so far.
Yeah, I do.
Do you
but
feel
what
like
if
that's
their game
pandering?
sucks so bad no women are interested? I guess they just.
No, but I'm saying like it's in the staffing. They're saying like the people who are developing new games get money for their projects if they can prove that half of their workforce is women. Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if they put together a great product, I can't envision why they wouldn't get more money in the future. You know what I mean? And it would become self-sustaining because the game might be good.
Yeah, I think what I'm most looking forward to is what type of companies are able to pop up and take this chance, right? Like the games, it'll be a minute before they come out, but just to know what companies are able to sort of attach to this, I'll be interested to see that come out.
And like as super cool as that is, like I hate to sit here and bag on my own gender here, but I feel like there are still less women in this field. Not that there aren't any, there are many, but I feel like depending on how large your company is, like if you've got 4 people, sure, you could have 2 women, but I feel like if you're a company of like 30 people finding 15 women, 15 men, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I feel like. So but I'm obviously a little worried about people being able to like then keep this up. Say they get the funding, they grow bigger, they no longer can find enough women to stay on their team. Do they lose their funding? Like there's a lot of like questions I have about this.
But like, I feel like more and more there are more women getting into the industry.
There for sure.
And so I feel like if you have a studio that's successful, if you're moving into the industry, I feel like you would be a little bit more educated and privy as to what's going on behind the scenes. And like, like for me, I would know. If I was going into game development, I would know which game developers have the most black people on staff and whatnot. Like that is something I would actively go out and research because they're making an effort to include perspectives like mine. So I think that's super important even if you're getting into the industry.
Yeah, and we've known forever that game development, regardless of how progressive some developers try to be, that it is still a boys club, right? So imagine how many female developers are out there that have applied to places, have tried to get into places, and for whatever reason, whether because the people hiring thought they were underqualified or looked and saw a female and said, nah, now there's more incentive for them to actually hire them on and give them a chance to prove themselves.
That's fair, but then also are they going to hire women who aren't qualified just to get the money also?
See, that's another good point.
That actually is a pretty good point.
So like, while I do think this is great, I also think that there's loopholes or there's something that they have to be able to police and watch out for.
Well, do you think the pros outweigh the cons is the question?
It is.
I would like to think so.
There is an argument out there for strictly merit-based hiring, and I'm not going to be the one to say that is wrong at all. I think that someone's resume and their job experience should impact whether they get a job or not, and someone who is less qualified probably, like if you have concerns about having them on your team, you should go with the person that you feel the most sure in. And it does feel a little bit like quota based recruitment.
But at the same time, like I'm kind of going through this in my day job right now, where
Sure.
I have to hire somebody, and the thing is that I'm actively in my mind, because we don't have as many female staff members as I would like, that I am sort of looking for someone that could bring that to the program,
Sure.
because it's important to the program. And I think that it becomes less about that quote unquote meeting a quota, that affirmative action type of anti-affirmative action type of ideology,
right?
But I think it's important because that's how your organization becomes dynamic, and especially
that's
doing
true. I agree with
and
that.
that's doing what working in the field that I work in. It's incredibly important to have as many different people in those positions as you can.
And I think to Nika's point, though, is there enough talent out there, even untapped talent, to be able to sustain a 50-50 split? That I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, remember, they're specifically looking at very small indie companies. So in a lot of cases, these might be women who are trying their hand at game developing. Maybe they're not 100% sure how it's going to end up going. And if they end up getting a positive experience through, being hired into an indie company, as opposed to having to go through, interview after interview after interview after interview, this could be something that at the lower levels helps to get more women involved.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was sort of what I was saying. And I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's like, oh, it is absolutely positively has to be 50-50. Like, I think there's wiggle room there. I know, like, with grants and stuff, hey, if I got a 40% female staff, and I can give you a plan about, hey, I intend on hiring 5 or 10 more female staff members in the next 5 years, then yeah, I don't see why a grantor wouldn't give you that.
Yeah. EA has confirmed now that BioWare's upcoming title, Anthem, will in fact not be releasing until first quarter 2019. They also confirmed that the delay, a term they're still a little hesitant to use, is not due to any kind of ongoing development issues. Instead, they've scheduled it into the first quarter of 2019 to avoid conflicting with the release of a new Battlefield game this October, as they see no reason to compete with themselves in an already busy time of the year.
BioWare is over. I'm gonna just go out and say they're done.
If this game doesn't,
no, Robbie,
Yeah.
there is no if. From what I've heard of this game, it will be a good game. It is not going to save a whole company.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It would take a release on the level of like a Grand Theft Auto, on the level of the first, new wave of Call of Duty, something culturally transformative, I think, to save this studio. I think literally it's already been handed a death sentence, and that's where they're like, we gotta move it, and we gotta open it where it's not competing with other stuff, and da. No, but it used to be BioWare. Other shit got moved for the BioWare.
I agree.
game.
Yeah, I know.
If they don't have that type of pull anymore, they're done. They're already done.
Fuck you, EA.
Nika.
Yes.
So I know, us three have gone around about the BioWare issue. How do you feel that BioWare is really putting all of their development eggs in one basket with Anthem? Do you think that that's a potential
Honestly,
disaster?
Anything with EA's name on it, I've checked out. And until EA and BioWare can separate, which I don't know if that could ever happen, I am also checked out.
No. Here's what happens is that EA, like they have with so many other great studios, will shutter BioWare.
Yeah. What was it? Montreal, and was the other one in Austin? The other BioWare studio?
I can't remember.
Anyway, they took the other two BioWare studios. They sent them all over to Edmonton. They have Skeleton Crews running 2 other properties that they have, and a bunch of insiders have said that this game will be make or break for the studio.
It's basically Final Fantasy for BioWare.
Yeah. And the fact that people have been throwing around this Destiny-esque stuff. Now, whatever that means for the game itself, I don't know, but I certainly don't like it. It puts a bad taste in my mouth.
It's I think it's definitely concerning.
Don't be like this.
If I was a BioWare fan, I would be super concerned. But I mean, like, is it just like, have we just written it off now? Like, is it just done?
It's for me, I think it's done because when you have a studio like BioWare that was so powerful, they could not miss. There was not a game that they couldn't put out that didn't have wasn't the gold standard. And when it came down to everything that was going on with that Andromeda and the reception of that game, and really the fact that it was an incomplete game, is a simple fact. I really think it tarnished that studio. And then EA was supposed to be the big brother company, come in and say, you know what, you had a stinker, let's plan about the future and whatnot. And then EA had their loot box controversy and lost God knows how much money on Battlefront 2.
With customizable mech suits, there's gonna be loot boxes in this game.
Exactly. So they had a whole profit structure for this game planned out 5, 6, 7 years into the future, and that's all dead and gone.
Yeah, even without a loot box controversy surrounding this, you're right. The BioWare name has been tarnished so much that now when a new Mass Effect, a new Dragon Age, a new whatever gets announced, you have some diehard fans that are still going to check it out, but then you have other fans, I think, like us, that are kind of going through maybe what we are with Square Enix, where we look at something and we're like,
the skepticism.
I'm not taking that at face value, right? This could still be a great game. You never know. However, you're right. I think that there are more tea leaves pointing to a massive letdown than anything else.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a new IP. It's,
the only reason that I'm going to give this the benefit of the doubt, that I will try it out unless the reviews and the news around it is absolutely horrible, is the fact that Casey Hudson is back on it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
I mean, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I intend on maybe checking it out, but at the same time, my expectations are not high.
Yeah, it's a tightrope walk for sure.
But I mean, dude, again, the Destiny-esque comparisons are that it's a persistent world.
Yep.
I mean, that it's a mech-based shooter, third-person shooter. I mean, even the premise is something that I'm just like, meh.
The only thing that still has me, and I don't know why it does, because they haven't given us any type of examples, any proof, anything at all, was in that original E3 trailer. They said that this will have the exact same kind of compelling narrative, single player experience that you expect from a BioWare game. That's the only thing that's hinging on.
But here's the thing. How can you do something like that? And that's part of the reason why I'm unsure about this. Because how can you have that level of detail in a persistent online world if you have a skeleton crew, right? We talk about 14 all the time. When you look at when 2.0 came out and you look at the sheer amount of shit that they put in the world from a lore standpoint, from, the flavor text that was in the game and all that type of stuff. If they have a staff that is astronomical, that game has a big staff. If you're running a skeleton crew staff and you want to have that level of detail and run a persistent online world and have all these type of ecosystems on top of it, how's that possible?
The skeleton crew isn't for this game, though. That's just what they've done to their other ones to try and get this basically off the ground. I think that's why this has make or break, because you're right. When this comes out, they're not going to be able to say, all right, let's move everybody to the next project and skeleton crew that. This is going to be so massive that either it has to hit so that way you can afford to keep everyone keeping it up, or it's not going to hit and they're going to end up shuttering it or even closing it down, a few months after release.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what's gonna happen with it. I have no expectations for it, and that's
probably the safest way to go into it.
And that's unfortunate. But even we're talking about like a new IP, or Nate was talking about it's a new IP. How many new IPs have come out so late in a gen? Because we got maybe 2-3 more years left of this gen.
I think the last analysis I remember hearing was 2019.
Right. So we got a max of maybe 2-3 years until we start talking about the next gen seriously. And you know what? The Last of Us, I can think of the last late gen game that was just amazing. There aren't many of them because people are already focused on developing for the next generation of consoles.
Even when there is a great game, you're right. There's something about that last year in a generation that kind of makes you write stuff off. I remember I originally hated Final Fantasy IX because I was looking to Final Fantasy X already.
And so, even though that was amazing, there are more games I think get kind of lost in the sauce at the end of a gen instead of being, masterpieces.
Yeah. Twin Galaxies, the authority on old speedrunning records and source for the Guinness Book of World Records, has dismissed a long-standing record for the Atari game Dragster. Todd Rogers held the record on that and a number of other games for over 35 years, but a critical look at the source code of the game found that his supposed time of 5.51 seconds was in fact impossible. All his records have been thrown out and he has been banned from submitting anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. We did talk about this on Checkpoint for a minute, but I mean
that just sucks, man.
It does. Now,
go ahead.
It sucks all around for for fans of competitive video gaming. Like, that really calls into question a lot of the long-standing records.
Yeah,
it kind of calls into question Twin Galaxies and how they haven't vetted this sooner.
It's really hard for me to actually, I don't want to say believe it, because a lot of people put a lot of time into this, but I feel like I put most of the blame on Twin Galaxies because look, back in those days, how would you prove records? VHSs or like a photo, right?
Right.
Photo.
Okay. 35 years ago, I feel like it was probably a lot more difficult to fake photos than it is nowadays. Right?
I mean, depending, we don't really know what the criteria for this particular game is. Because, I mean, that far back, you could have just wrote in a letter or something.
That's possible as well.
And,
I'd be interested to know, because when I was reading some of the articles, there were 3 people total, Todd Rogers and 2 other people, that claimed to have gotten the 5.51 second record.
And now we...
What?
So,
yeah, there were 3 people who claimed to have gotten that time back in the day.
So right now, so you still have 2 other people who said they had this exact time.
Yep. And the developer of Dragster said that he believes that Todd Rogers got that time.
Okay, wait.
See, now this just got way dumber.
Well, and the hole got way deeper.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, the people who are saying that this is impossible, I don't think that they used an actual Atari system. They used the source code. They made, basically tool-assisted programs and saying that, look, this is being played by this program at the basically as good as you possibly can.
As well as you
possibly can, and it's not possible.
Is it possible that there's a glitch that he had used?
There's something. That's the thing. There's some little small things that just make me skeptical on both sides. And you're right. I think what it really comes down to is it's probably Twin Galaxies' fault.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole story is just very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. Nintendo confirmed this week that Mario Kart is finally making its way to mobile devices in the form of Mario Kart Tour. It doesn't seem like it's just going to be a port of another Mario Kart game either, as the release window isn't until March 2019, meaning there's still quite a lot of development going into the game.
Why? Why not just make a new one for the Switch?
Because if it's on mobile, literally everybody will have to buy it.
Right, but then what was the point of making a mobile console if they're not going to put games on it?
Look, because they're 2 different consoles, Nika.
Oh my God, people already look. The Mario Kart for the Switch, the deluxe one, was the best.
It's a port of the Wii U.
It doesn't matter. It was the best-selling Mario Kart game to date.
Right.
When this comes out on mobile, you are going to see a mobile game that might actually surpass what Pokemon Go did.
Yeah, and especially if they do it with
microtrans. You know it's gonna be loaded with microtrans.
No. Well, no, but what I was gonna say is that if they're gonna do it with enough, with enough creativity, we kind of poo-pooed Pokemon Go early on too, because we were like, what are we gonna do? Get up off of our couch to go catch the? Yes, actually,
everybody
did.
We sure
did. And the thing is that like, I wonder how they're doing it. Like, I wonder how they're doing it.
If they find a really creative way to do this, not just, I'm queuing up on my mobile device and I can sit here, but if they I don't know. Like
you
honestly,
put it
it's
in your
endless.
actual car.
That's what I was thinking.
And a fucking AR shit pops up, and you can be driving for real, and you got to hit
That
the little.
is the most dangerous shit I've
I
ever
don't care.
heard.
They're gonna do it.
There's no, there's no way that they could. What I mean, what's probably a lot more likely is
No,
that
it's gonna be accelerometer game.
Yeah, it's gonna.
And
it's gonna
here's the
use
thing too.
gyroscope.
They charged us for Mario Run. So honestly, even if they put this at like $2.99 in the Google Play shop,
everybody will have it.
People are gonna buy it. And then as far as microtransactions go, you could actually make it all cosmetic based. And people would still go nuts for it. Absolutely.
And honestly, I bet that the majority of it is already designed and built, and that they're waiting for March 2019 for phone hardware to just get better.
Probably.
That very well could be as
Probably.
well. Probably.
Because that's what that's about 2 waves of new phones.
Yeah. Sure is.
So Nika's poo-pooing it now, but I bet she's also going to get it.
You're gonna buy it.
I honestly, no. My,
It's gonna
my
be lit
phone
at the
doesn't have
con
enough
scene.
space to just buy infinite amount of games.
You
and stuff
would
for my
make
phone.
space. Shut up.
No way. I
When
absolutely
you
would not
get
buy
to the
this. I'm telling
con
you.
and everyone else is playing it,
That's what it's gonna be. She's gonna be at
no.
the con, and they're gonna be
Yeah.
running a fucking Mario
Yup.
Kart mobile tournament.
all of her
A
friends
Mario
are
Kart
playing.
Tour tournament. Everybody's gonna be playing. Nika's up in
She's
the game
gonna be
with
like,
us.
"You guys want to fight this Rayquaza with me?" She's like, "Shut up, bitch! We're on Rainbow Road."
I can't honestly see it. Like, especially if it's free, maybe. If it costs money, I don't see myself downloading it.
Oh my!
Because I have been waiting for a new Mario Kart for the Switch since the Switch came out. Instead, we got a port of Mario Kart, and I'm still waiting for a new Switch Mario Kart. Instead, we're getting mobile. I cannot see myself.
Did you
buying
wait?
it.
Did you play the Wii U Mario Kart when it was on the Wii U?
I don't own a Wii U.
Okay, well then it was new to you. What are you complaining
It was
about?
brand new.
You've
What are you
never played
complaining
it.
about?
Oh, got her ass.
No, because what's bothered me is since they announced the Switch, a bunch of their launch titles, except for Zelda, like so many of their launch titles were just ports of games that already existed.
but
Like,
if
I'm
you-
waiting for Switch exclusive games.
But if you didn't own a Wii U, they're new to you.
Yeah, but people that did have the Wii U aren't going to buy it, so they
Who
don't have
gives
people
a
to play
shit
with.
about that?
There's people to play with.
Who gives Nika? There's
They did buy it. Fastest selling Mario Kart game of all
Let's just call a spade a spade.
There's 45 of those people. I'm pretty sure that they're gonna suck it up and buy it again.
They absolutely did.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so few people. I mean, the Wii U is such a disaster that, like,
Which is why I never bought it.
It only makes but it only makes sense because software is so malleable and you can apply it to so many different devices now.
Especially Nintendo Nintendo software.
Nintendo
It takes
to
nothing.
Nintendo. It's so easy.
Think about it like this: the Switch has sold more Wii U's than the Wii U did in its lifetime.
Exactly.
Why would you not put those games that haven't been experienced by probably the majority of those people on the Switch?
Why would I
Because
make
they're
a
all
new
gonna rebuy
game
them.
when I can release an old one?
Yeah, like why would you only want the neckbeards and the mouth breathers to experience,
Nika, Suikoden remastered, you gonna buy it? You gonna buy it?
That would never happen.
Are you gonna buy it?
No, that's not what he
Nika,
asked.
are you going to buy it?
Of course I would.
Yeah.
Really?
Exactly.
Why not? Why not just boycott it? Because they could have made a new game. Nika.
They could have made a new Suikoden.
Actually, I buy everything Suikoden so that Konami knows we still care.
Yeah.
That is a different reason.
Okay,
That is a
Nika,
different reason.
You tell yourself that.
I bought Suikoden too, like how many times on every PlayStation that I own just to show them that people want to play it.
By the way,
That is a
I'm
very
like
different
5 hours into the first Suikoden, and I'm just it's
It is the best.
No, the first one's
The first one's good. The second one's the best.
How long does it take to get going? Because I'm still like fucking running errands
12
for
hours.
some douche nozzle.
12 hours.
Really?
Have you? Hold
No.
on. Have you?
No.
You probably haven't
12.
gotten your HQ yet, have you?
No.
No, you're
That's-
not gonna get that. That's for a while.
That's
Yeah.
that's when it picks up.
once you get your headquarters. it'll-
Jesus Christ! Really? How long is that?
And it doesn't take that long,
It's
does
not
it?
that long. Have you
5
even left
hours?
the first city yet?
Yeah, I went to 2 cities now.
The first Suikoden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 6 hours, maybe.
He's got to be close to it,
Yeah,
right?
you got to be
Yeah.
close.
Ugh,
Yeah.
It's taking forever.
5 took forever. Oh my gosh, it took so long in 5.
Suikoden 5 has got a really slow opening.
I never got
and then it picks
got
up.
that far in Suikoden.
Suikoden 5 is a great game.
I couldn't keep up.
You have
I
to
was
get
like,
past
all
the
these
beginning.
motherfuckers. I need 6. I need 6 ride or dies. I don't need 100 motherfuckers.
In terms of like the opening few hours of Suikoden, just the already like Ted, like just really uncreative naming that's going on there.
Okay, but to be fair, there's 108
Ted.
playable characters in every game plus
Ted.
NPCs. They have to have names for every.
Hi, my name is Ted. I'm a fantasy adventure character.
I can think of a lot of names
have
besides
magical
Ted.
abilities.
Like, there are names that range
I
from,
am
like,
a magic
really,
man named Ted.
Like,
really
all they had to do was
fantasy
add like
names
Rick onto
to
the end of it.
Japanese to
Tedrick.
American. Like, there's so many names.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Tedrick
you
would have
got
been
it.
better.
Tedrick.
Even Tedrick would have been better. Call him Ted for short. I don't give a shit. His full name.
It would have been Tedrick.
From front to back is Ted. Fear me, my name is Ted.
When I played Valkyria Chronicles on stream, I had a Ted in my squad.
But like, think about
everyone hated him. He was the worst. He was the worst guy in my squad.
No.
Fucking Ted.
Thinking about Ted, right? Even if he had one of those like medieval throwback names, right? Like, you know, Tedrick the Black or something like that, you'd be like, oh shit, he might be lit. You know, I definitely wouldn't fuck with Tedrick the Black. No, if he was just Ted the Black, or he was to be Black Ted.
Black
like, like, come on.
I am Ted, destroyer of worlds.
Black Ted.
Black Ted.
This is Black Ted.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Nintendo has also confirmed this week that Illumination Entertainment will be creating a new Super Mario movie. Despicable Me franchise producer Chris Meledandri will be teaming up with the legend himself, Shigeru Miyamoto, to create the movie. The movie remains untitled, but we know that Nintendo will be partnering with Universal Studios to finance and distribute the film. This is blasphemy.
Someone dig up Bob Hoskins.
This is blasphemy. This
Get
will
him
be
to reprise the role,
here's the problem.
please.
The Despicable Me team.
It's going to be fucking animated.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's stupid.
Oh, fuck that. No.
Thank you.
But
fuck
the
that.
Despicable Me movies are so good.
I don't care.
Only the first two.
You know, look.
Yeah, the third one wasn't as
you
good. but it was so
CGI
fun.
Bob Hoskins, you get John Leguizamo back in there, and you make a second Mario
John
Brothers
Leguizamo
movie.
would still do it.
Yes, he fucking
Totally.
would. I love John Leguizamo.
He would totally still
If they
do it.
provided him as much booze as they did on the first shoot, then yeah, probably.
Do we bring
he'd show
back
up.
wait, is Dennis Hopper dead?
I don't. Shit, is he?
I don't remember. Did Dennis Hopper die? I think he did die.
I think he's dead.
I don't know that he is. Would somebody Google or ask the chat?
I gotta see.
I gotta find out.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
yeah,
he
died in 2010.
He died in 2010.
All right, we
unfortunately.
CG Dennis Hopper too.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. We CG.
you know what?
Rogue One CG Dennis Hopper.
If Justin Timberlake can perform with a hologram Prince at the halftime of the Super Bowl, which is the rumor that I keep hearing.
Well, I mean, people. You know, Hatsune Miku does her own concerts where it's literally a hologram and she sells out studios.
She's an anime character. She's not real. A hologram is the only way she can exist.
Well, no, exactly.
That's different.
But the thing is, a hologram can sell out stadiums.
It's pretty much the plot to Macross. If anyone has ever seen Macross, it's pretty much
Lin Minmay.
Yeah.
So, lastly,
Russia's going to figure out a way to weaponize holograms.
Anime hologram girls.
Anime holograms of big-eyed school children from Japan, and we're all going to be fucked.
Yeah,
Russia.
We're going to be fucked.
The real reason they bought into S-Force, ES-Force, whatever. All right, and lastly from Nintendo.
Terrifying.
They've detailed their sales through the end of 2017, and holy hell are the numbers staggering. Sales posted in at $7.9 billion, representing a 176% increase over the same period in 2016. Profits, meanwhile, were at $1.4 billion, a nearly 500% increase. The leading cause is, of course, the Switch, which has officially outsold the Wii U lifetime with 14.87 million units sold. In addition, they also sold 4 million SNES Classics, which outsold the NES Classic, and all but ensuring that we will see the N64 Classic at some point.
I'm coming! I'm coming!
You are so good at these drops. I don't think you've had a single misfire.
No, there hasn't been a
Fat, if you're watching this, what the fuck is your problem? Day one on the job.
Because that's basically what all the Nintendo execs did when they saw the fucking numbers.
No, we got it.
Okay.
we understood.
I'm just saying, dude, because that, first of all, we had a question on Checkpoint. Oh, is Nintendo back? All right. fuck our opinions about this, because those numbers just
Data
prove
shows, yeah.
they're back than the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They back.
500% increase.
Are you serious right now? Dude, dog, that's Bezos level shit. When we talking about just how quick a brand like turns the corner and makes money, that shit's ridiculous.
They solidly lost money outside of the initial Wii sales, right? Like, because the Wii spiked the needle, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But then Nintendo couldn't find third-party developers outside of shovelware developers, so that drop-off came very quick and very hard.
In less than a year, they made back everything they lost on the Wii U.
In a year?
Yeah.
In less than a year.
Actually, yeah, half a year.
That's
how it inspired all the
crazy.
people that made that system.
The Wii U?
Yeah, they're all gone.
That's fucking crazy, though. Like, I mean, I think again, it's a valid question. You know, is Nintendo like full rebounding at this point? Yeah, definitely.
I think they are. In fact, they're probably going to go beyond, because Nintendo's always just had Nintendo, and now even if some of the releases are delayed or even a few years old, they're starting to loop all these other developers in too. And as all of us have done ourselves, we will absolutely buy re-release games.
See, and that's the major thing too, and not just the re-release of games. This is really the first time, like the first wave of the Switch. This is the first software wave. We don't even know what's coming, what's really coming up next for the next couple years,
right,
in terms of, not just third party, but also first party support.
Yeah.
This is a system that doesn't have a bespoke Pokemon yet. This is a system that, hasn't got the second Mario game, which is,
there is no Smash Brothers game that you can play.
There's no Smash
on a Switch yet.
So you talk about releasing Smash and Pokemon, and you gonna tell me Nintendo's not back? The potential of the system hasn't even been realized yet.
Imagine the last time, which for me was never, that you contemplated your recent upcoming AAA title and you were like, well, should I buy it for the PlayStation or should I buy it for my Nintendo? That's coming.
That is coming.
That's coming.
No, it'll take a gen, but I think it's gonna be coming.
It's gonna be a year or two, but it's coming.
I don't know. Nintendo's processing power has always been about a gen behind the other ones.
I agree with that.
But it depends on what type of game we're talking
Guess what?
about.
If I had the money and Monster Hunter World was on the Switch, that's what I'd have it on.
I don't think that the Switch could
But
run
the Switch can't
Monster
run
Hunter
a Monster
World.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, give it
but
a
I'm just
year.
saying, if you have Nintendo,
Give it a year to what? Like replace the processing chip
the
inside?
processor.
Like,
but
no.
But
What are you
Robbie,
talking
here's where
about?
I initially agreed with you on, is because Nintendo, makes so much fucking money, right? And this system continues to be successful. Then at some point, maybe they do go, okay, let's think about graphical fidelity, because at one point. It was a very long time ago, but at one point you had a Super Nintendo, and that was like the most lit system to have. It in many cases was better looking than the ports over to Genesis. It sounded better than the ports over to Genesis. So it really depends. It's not like Nintendo can't do it. So that's where I agree with you on, is that if this system continues to be successful, you may see them put, I'm not gonna say shift the entire focus, but put more of a focus on the power of their actual systems, and then I think you'll begin to see that.
But it's going to take a new round of hardware to make that possible.
It'll be after the Switch.
Not just that, but I mean, like, we've even said before, what are the limitations of graphics power? Like, at what point does the ability to produce graphics outweigh the ability for a development staff to place all of those objects and to make level design that is compelling and interesting? Because as games become more detailed, it means that the designers have to get more detailed with what they're putting in to make for a better game experience, right? So front to back, if a game takes if a game takes 5 years to design and then 2 years to build, how can you speed up that process? You know what I mean? Because at some point it's going to be, okay, the actual designing of levels is going to go from 2 years to 3 years to 5 years to some of the best games that we've seen come out have taken upwards of 10 years to be able to design and pull off.
And before FF15.
I said best games.
He said best.
I said best games. There are some games.
But I mean, look at Red Dead 2. That's what, now 7 years.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly. There are some games that do have that long of a development cycle because legit it takes that long to be able to place all that stuff and build all that stuff. It has less to do with balancing and more to do with detailing.
But see, I also think that's where Nintendo has the advantage because they have that large library of games that are not, graphically powerful and are more artistically expressive and less concerned about detail and more about gameplay and art direction. So I think when you had Nintendo's in an advantageous position with something like that, because let's say you have one or two developers who say, you know what, they got the inside track with Nintendo and they say, hey, you know what, we want to take 7 years making a game for your next system.
Right.
And so is there any way possible that we could begin to do that moving forward? I think Nintendo is in a position to say, you know what, go ahead, because we know that if we put out what we're good at, that game will not make or break our system.
Right.
Well, and if you look at, and obviously Nintendo likes to forge their own path, but if they did start to take some cues from the rest of the industry, we see all these half systems that it's not even out of the realm of possibility that an upgraded Switch we could see in 2 years.
But see, I don't think that's in Nintendo's. I don't think that's in Nintendo's game plan. I don't see them ever doing a stopgap system. I think that goes against everything Nintendo is about.
Well, and if the Wii U was any indication.
Well, but you had brought up something earlier that we're. As consumers, we're perfectly happy to rebuy a game if we think that we can experience it differently. And experiencing a AAA game as a portable game is a different experience. You've got limiting factors with the Switch, like hardware, like battery life, like storage capacity, that I think prevents... I would just completely write off the idea of seeing a game like Monster Hunter World on the Switch.
No way.
What I do think you'll see is a lot of the ports of previous generations, your Xbox 360s, your PS3 games make their way over, and some maybe very light PS4 games that can scale down. You know what I mean? I don't think that you'll end up seeing AAA games that are on all three systems at once or have the same release window for all three systems. I don't think you'll ever see that. As Nika had pointed out, Nintendo is at least one generation behind with their hardware. And again, because it's portable, I think that makes us willing to buy things like Skyrim over again.
I was going to say that Skyrim's the big one. Like Skyrim's on everything now, but Switch got it years after everything else.
Exactly. So. But I mean, and they're testing the waters to see if that's going to work, and I think it will. I think they're going to be able to sell enough copies of Skyrim on the Switch to make that port justifiable, and then say, listen, the same thing can be done for other games. There's a bevy of Vita games that sold hot garbage on the Vita that could be easily ported for a Switch experience.
So how do they draw the line then? Because that Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, is coming out for the Switch.
It's going to be downscaled to shit.
It scales then.
But even still with that, and that was a AAA game, if you will, high production values.
In the same
but
way
at the same time, it's a single player first person shooter.
Right.
It's a very self-contained game. It's not a big game.
Monster Hunter World, first, on disk space is going to be the first thing that you run into. Network connection is going to be the second thing that you run into. I just see way too many problems with a game that big. I don't think you'll see MMOs on the Switch.
Oh, no.
I don't think you'll see an FF14 port on the Switch.
We might get RuneScape
None of that shit. I don't think you'll see any of that. But, for a game like The Phantom Pain, I think that there's a pretty good possibility that we could see that on the Switch because we had Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, scaled down versions of that game that could probably run on that kind of hardware.
And that's why I think it would be better if that was their stance moving forward into whatever their next gen is. Because right now, you're right. The Switch, you and Nico are right. The Switch does not have the processing power to be able to run AAA games in this gen. Probably barely AAA games from the last gen.
Even Breath of the Wild would have lagging and frame rate issues, and that game was made literally
for the Switch.
The Switch. Yeah.
So I understand that, but I just think moving forward, because the Switch is doing so well and being so successful, and if, Nate, as you said, the third-party games come out and they're also successful, that makes the case for somebody to make a more long-standing development commitment.
Yeah.
Can I just point out like how much more Norris contributes than Fat does?
Seriously.
Like Fat would have just made like a penis joke or something and we'd have moved on.
Yeah.
So thank you, Norris.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
We would have hit a dumb drop and then we would have not laughed
ended the whole fucking segment.
Pretty much.
Put the brakes on hard. Yeah.
A fight between roommates has resulted in one person arrested on misdemeanor charges and the other in the hospital.
I love this story.
Likely to be arrested upon release. Now, normally that sort of news doesn't make our show, except when the battle involved one of them using a replica Master Sword as the weapon.
Yes!
Anchorage man Jeremy Tazrook allegedly pulled down a replica Master Sword off the wall to fight another violent roommate. Long story short, it broke, presumably because he was not, in fact, the savior of Hyrule.
Oh, my fucking God.
I feel like we get this story like every 2 or 3 years you hear about this happening.
I mean, but that would be like Nate pulling down the Buster Sword.
The Buster Sword from above my
Here's
television,
the thing, though.
yeah.
It's always the Master Sword. Like, whenever there's a fight and it involves a video game sword, it's always the Master Sword. It's never the Buster Sword. It's never Frostmourne.
It's
always the
light.
Master Sword.
It's light, and I could get it, and I could go in, and I could use a shield with it. So I mean, you know, it's I got attack and defense right here.
Oh,
man.
that's hilarious.
But here's the funny thing to me, right? And we've all had, you know, roommates and stuff, and we've all dealt with roommate drama and whatnot. I don't know about y'all, but I can't recall any times I've actually wanted to pull like weapons,
like an actual weapon.
I think it just depends on how violent the other person got. Like I think that he probably pulled it down, like you said, sort of like in defense. If the other person got violent first, yeah, I'd probably go.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
like
if I was in my living room and someone was getting violent or someone busted open the door, like I can't say that I wouldn't go for the
Nate,
Buster Sword.
You ever had an ex-girlfriend pull a knife on you?
I mean, once.
Really? That's it? Just once?
Just once, yeah.
Was it the flood?
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Actually, I mean, I didn't have a knife pulled on me, but there was one time that Jen showed me that she sleeps with a knife under her pillow sometimes.
Oh.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, don't get fresh.
Yeah. Fair enough.
3 Washington state senators are asking the Washington Gambling Commission to look into loot boxes and determine whether they constitute gambling. They're asking for a relatively quick turnaround time on the findings as well, wanting a recommendation from the board no later than December 1st of this year.
This needs to happen. I mean, like, first of all, the ESRB needs to get involved in this conversation again. And I really do think that that there needs to be a body inside the United States that takes a stand on loot boxes that clearly qualifies them as the predatory behavior or the predatory thing that they are.
But at the same time, you know, we talk about the government getting involved with video game making. We talk about
they're notoriously bad at it.
Exactly. And so while I understand that sentiment in saying, hey, loot boxes are predatory, they're something that have clearly had a negative impact on gaming as a whole, how do we actually do that without risking the government getting involved in doing it so poorly that the very concept of microtransactions or the very concept of loot boxes paid anything is destroyed?
But this is what we've seen in other industries that act irresponsibly, whether it is to the detriment of the people buying their products or whether it's to the detriment of the environment as a, unfortunate side effect of their business. We've seen companies act with this sort of impunity for a long time. And that's what government intervention and government regulation is actually designed to do. You hear a lot of hyperbole about government regulation and about, it hurts business. Well, it does. And the thing is that it wouldn't have hurt your business, and it wouldn't have been necessary if you weren't acting unethically in the first fucking place. And this is what the ESRB skirted the first time when they actually made it, because the content discussion in video games was a very important one, but this is almost as important.
Absolutely is.
This is damn near as important. And here's the sad part, because the content fight was a purely abstract fight. They were the video game industry was fighting for the same ability to express themselves that every other media
as film
has.
and television and everything else does.
That's not what the loot box conversation is.
No.
Nope.
They have now made themselves wealthy and padded their pockets and done it on the backs of people who cannot control their own actions.
Right.
And they have now compromise the ESRB to say, yeah, no, that's not predatory. That's some insider trading bullshit.
I mean,
and you know what? The government has to get involved at this point.
I'm only saying that, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but this is the argument that's going to be brought up against it. And what I'm saying is that it absolutely has to be proven, and that's what we're talking about with them having these summits, having these meetings, trying to hash out what exactly this shit is and how far to let it grow or go. Because if the government gets involved, it's gonna be widespread, overarching, and it's gonna have unforeseen circumstances.
But look at what EA did. EA took loot boxes out of Star Wars Battlefront 2 literally just long enough so that they could skirt the heat for doing it.
Of course.
And now that everyone has stopped talking about loot boxes and whether or not they constitute gambling, they're already putting them back in.
Yeah, but what happens when the next game comes out that they try to do this?
No, but here's the problem.
Could they get away with it again?
Here's the problem. They've put the loot boxes back in, and already the brand has been dealt irreparable damage.
This is true.
That's the thing. And I understand what
Fuck the brand. We're talking about government intervention on gambling.
There's
government intervention on gambling. This is not a question about content. This is not a question about sales or how well or not it's done. This is about whether or not the video game industry gets a seat at the table or a part of the conversation about the way that it's regulated in the future.
Right, but what I'm saying is you can't.
What my point is that if they're not going to be acting responsibly, then someone who recognizes how irresponsibly they're acting will be able to make a case strong enough for the government to get involved. And then that's when shit really hits the fan.
And that's what I'm talking about. But I'm saying those conversations between content and gambling and profit are inextricably linked. And there's no way that they're going to be able to have that debate without that counter argument being brought up. And right now, I don't see that the video game industry is doing enough to make that point.
They're not.
That's what I'm saying. So when the government gets involved, it's going to be without that input from the game industry.
My point here is the reason that they're not involved and the reason that they're not doing more and the reason that they're not trying to get out in front of this is because they're making ungodly amounts of money off of it. That's the only reason why. It's greed. It's greed, pure and simple. And we have to accept that. And we also have to accept all of the things that come along with that. When an industry has been compromised by greed and it's no longer doing what is in the best interest of either the industry or the people that are partaking in that part of the industry, guess what? The government has to get involved. And the government, the idea there is to protect people.
Yeah.
From this kind of predatory behavior.
But at the same time, I don't see any bankers in jail.
To speak to your...
No one will go to jail.
No, but I'm just saying in terms of punishment. Money talks and bullshit.
No, you want to know what the punishment's going to be? The punishment is going to be that the government is going to start taking certain shares or certain percentages of what the loot boxes are making.
No, I don't see that. I don't see that. No.
Putting fees or penalties on it?
What's gonna what's gonna happen?
Because that would make the government complicit in gambling.
Yeah.
If they decide to classify it as gambling.
Point taken.
I don't know. I have no idea what your point is. Where did that go?
You said that there would be no punishment for the industry, right?
The punishment would be in a regulatory body that the video game industry doesn't have any say in. That the ESRB is a regulatory body that is internal to the video game industry.
With as much money that's going through the video game industry.
But what Robbie's saying is that the government would just take a cut.
When the government gets involved...
that's not what the government's role is.
And that's why I gave him pushback.
That would have been the mob's role.
Exactly.
If they were in mob control, if they were trying to set up in mob-controlled territory. That's not how the government works.
Did you guys see our administration lately?
I mean,
yeah,
kind of.
Anything goes
at the same time. But
in a perfect world,
anyway,
in a perfect world.
No. The punishment is having a regulatory body that is not answerable to the video game industry, that doesn't have the best interest of the video game industry, that doesn't have the best interest of the people playing video games at heart.
Because it's going to be suits making that decision.
Exactly.
It's not going to be the video game industry that knows the difference between, Overwatch has cosmetic loot boxes and everybody's kind of okay with that.
Exactly.
Or, this game had predatory loot boxes that I couldn't get good to get. That would require the video game industry to put the time in to put that into legalese and then make the case on behalf of the video games industry.
Right.
That's not going to happen if they continue on this route. So they run the risk of losing what they could have, because even if it's classified as gambling and people don't want to put gambling in their games, fine. But they would be able to say, hey, but if people want to pay for cosmetic stuff in the game, I feel like that's something that might stay.
Another potential thing that they could do is they could, since loot boxes would constitute gambling, any game that has loot boxes suddenly become an 18 and up product.
It becomes an M-rated game.
And not just an M-rated game, but a product that is subject to control by
gambling.
Yeah,
Trade Commission.
Yeah, what is that? Because it's
like a gaming board.
Well, the same thing that the same types of laws that prevent people under 18 from walking in and buying scratch-off tickets.
You
know what I'm talking about?
Your lottery laws and stuff like that. Yeah, that's your state gaming commission.
There you go. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. So it would be a completely different body now that's involved on the retail side.
Yep.
I mean, dude, this could get fucking bad.
So that's what I'm saying. So instead of the video game industry saying, hey, you know what? Instead of $85 million in profit, we might have to only take 45, but we can guarantee ourselves that fucking 45.
Exactly.
Instead of walking away with just 15 from the profits of our retail sales of the game.
Yeah. The problem is their actions right now are too short-sighted. Like, Norris and you pointed out that EA shut down the loot boxes, but now they're bringing them back. But the conversation's already going, and it's not stopping now.
But it's too late now.
Yeah.
It's beyond them.
Well, and again, that's why I do think that something like the Washington, this case out of Washington State, could provide, some very interesting groundwork for a future legal case against loot boxes and games with the loot boxes in them.
Yep.
The Game Developers Conference this year awarded one of its top honors, the Pioneer Award, to the Atari founder Nolan Bushnell. In the wake of movements like Me Too and Time's Up, the award has sparked a fair amount of backlash from the gaming community. People like Brianna Wu, developer Elizabeth Sampit, and Worcester Polytechnic Institute Gillian Smith were all quick to point to Bushnell's well-documented history of sexual misconduct in the workplace as reasoning why he shouldn't receive the award.
Who made this decision? Because this is an all-around bad decision.
Do you not actually look into the people that you're giving these awards to?
Yeah. I mean, this is like, I feel like this is the third story we've talked about that, proper vetting would have been able to. Right? This was completely avoidable.
Like, just do a quick Google.
Yeah.
Easily.
And read beyond founder of Atari.
Why did this happen? Why? But at the same time, I mean, Casey Affleck got an Oscar last year, so it's not like it fucking matters, to be honest with you. I mean, you can still very much so be a scumbag and still win awards.
Sure.
So,
Harvey Weinstein did it for like 20 fucking years.
Everybody knew he was a scumbag.
Yeah.
So who gives a fuck?
It was like the most open secret in Hollywood.
So who gives a fuck? I hate to say it that way, but unless there's a tangible change in motherfuckers basically saying like, oh yeah, as a matter of fact, it would have been better to publicly say, oh yeah, you would have got this shit, but you're a scumbag, so no, you can't get it.
Yeah.
Wow, that would have been great.
Yeah, the criteria for winning awards is you have to be a decent fucking human.
Is there a real, like honestly, is there even anything that anyone gets out of like being really kind to Nolan Bushnell these days? Like, I haven't heard that guy's name since I used to watch G4 on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why even honor him? You couldn't find anyone else in the gaming industry?
No.
Jesus Christ.
We couldn't find a single soul, which lets me know that not one real actual motherfucking gamer had a part in this.
Dude, this isn't some like video game award, Spike TV bullshit either. This is GDC.
That's it. I don't get it.
Ugh.
I don't get it. Fucking Suits, man.
Bad decision there.
Suits, man.
Yeah. Well, that's.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Chat room, if you want, join in. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the sexual misconduct allegations the reason that he had to leave Atari?
I think so.
You know what? Let's do what we said that they should have done. Let's do ourselves a quick Google.
Let's do a little Google
and see what pops up first.
I'm on it.
Just his name.
Because I want to say that was one of the chief reasons that he was dismissed from either Atari or wherever he was directly after Atari.
Well, everything's about this current news story so far.
Of course.
But I'm trying to see anything like before that.
I mean, because you would think that would be a pretty big oversight on the awards committee.
But you know what? Depending on how far ago when did he leave Atari? 'Cause I'm trying to think.
Jesus, I mean, he was like the founder, so I think that he was the one who ended up selling it for the first time, maybe?
Okay, because depending on how far back that was, that's some shit that would have got buried easily.
That's true.
Easily.
That's
so there
true.
might not even really be public record about that. I'll search. I'm searching.
But I mean, like, again, the story here is that, he has a well-documented history of sexual misconduct in the workplace. So, I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't want to further tarnish the man's name.
Yeah, I'm trying to... okay, I got to the blah, 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 blah. I don't see. Okay, you know what? Hold on, because it says here on his wiki.
Okay,
there's nothing negative on his wiki that I'm seeing.
No. November 1978, Bushnell was forced out of the company after a dispute with Warner over its future direction.
Okay, that could be any number of things.
Yeah. Exactly, that's vague as fuck.
Things, yeah.
So I don't really know.
Interesting.
But
I mean, that's the thing though, is that like, is it weird to anyone else that people will employ an army of publicists to just keep facts off of people's Wikipedia pages?
Oh, without a doubt.
That's fucking crazy.
Without a doubt.
Like, I was thinking. I was thinking about it this week.
Publicists don't scrub a wiki page?
Oh, totally. Well, like, dude, the fucking Louis C.K.'s manager, or whoever his publicist was,
people.
Yeah, that was covering up his bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, dude, because think about a wiki, right? Think about any person that has an issue with you as like a public figure. They could just hop on wiki and just put some shit on there. You know what I'm saying? And it very well could be true. Let's say
Right.
it's verified true. Let's
Right.
say there's a news story about this, right?
Yeah.
Dude, do you know how many times? Hey, okay, a completely detailed synopsis of a scandal can just like completely turn into a very small link that goes to another wiki page that has one paragraph.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's very possible.
Anyway, all right. Well, so on that note, what a great note to end our.
I'm noticing
our
some
news
synergy
on.
between the stories here.
There is some.
Moving on to our topic of discussion. By the way, if you want to sound off on this or anything that we're talking about today, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764, limitbreakradio.com/Discord if you want to call in on Discord. Let's talk about the co-creator of Counter-Strike. He was arrested over potential alleged sexual exploitation of a child.
Jesus Christ.
Now, we don't know exactly what the details of the charge are. He has been arrested. But my question is, because this is damn grim. Although, it seems like a lot of the news that we cover these days is goddamn grim. And, we're going through a period of time right now where we are tearing down a lot of our idols.
Yep.
Culturally. I don't mean individually, I mean culturally. And it's challenging a lot of people.
Your favorite is problematic.
Yes. And the thing is that, it's challenging a lot of people about, who do we idolize? Like, who do we honor? And in fact, who do we even support? And I'm curious if this changes your relationship or your opinion about Counter-Strike. Would you play it in the future? I mean, it's one of the most highly watched and consumed esports. Would you continue to watch it?
I'm done.
I mean, your connection to Counter-Strike was maybe tenuous in the first place. I'm not the biggest Counter-Strike fan. None of us necessarily are. So this is why we want to hear from you. Again, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764, limitbreakradio.com/Discord. On Discord to sound off. We want to know, in your opinion, does this change the way that you see Counter-Strike? I mean, I think for me that it does, for sure.
Yep.
His involvement in it, as one of the co-creators, you can hear his voice in many, drops in the game.
He gets royalties from it.
Yeah, he gets royalties from it. Yeah, he's still going to continue to be paid off of this for a long time. Even being forced out of the company, you do get to retain, even if you're a criminal, you get to retain your rights to a commercial product that does well. It's
because of that reason specifically why I will refuse to play it. I will refuse to spend my own money.
Because you don't want even a fraction of a cent.
Not a red cent, not a fraction of a cent of my money to go to a person like this. And I think this, Nate, goes to a larger issue that you're talking about this cultural shift, the change in the zeitgeist, if you will, of people, starting to take a close look at our idols, a close look at the people that we consider heroes, and hold them accountable for really vile actions, right? Yeah. But at the same time, usually followed after some initial fervor is the same shit. Okay, that person got fired, cool. Well, this is different because you're seeing this continual wave, and I find that to be interesting. And we have people in the chat saying, wow, I thought this was only a Hollywood thing.
No.
It is clear.
No. This is all,
This is very much so
a human thing.
This is a human condition that we're talking about.
Just some important facts here. Jess Cliff is who we're talking about, the co-creator of Valve's highly popular Counter-Strike. He was arrested by Seattle police on suspicion of child exploitation. Cliff has been an employee of Valve since 2003. A spokesperson for Valve has told Kotaku that Cliff was suspended We are still learning of the details of what actually happened, Valve says. Reports suggest that he has been arrested for a felony offense. As such, we have suspended his employment until we know more. An arrest record obtained by Kotaku shows that Clift was booked at 1:17 a.m. on Thursday before being denied bail. According to Seattle news site KIRO7, Clift has not been charged with any crime at this time.
But what that tells me is they had a warrant, and they ran up in this shit, and they got him at 1-something in the morning, and by being denied bail, that means he's
hard stuff.
Not just necessarily hard stuff, he's considered a flight risk.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And so I feel like if a judge is looking at what's put in front of them, and again, you know, it's innocent until proven guilty and all this stuff, but I feel like for a judge to not grant you bail, I feel like that's an important part of this case here.
According to ESPN, the Washington state legislature says sexual exploitation of children can include elements of commercial sexual abuse of a minor or depictions of minors engaged in sexually explicit content, such as creation, distribution, or possession of depictions of child pornography.
And see, we got Epic Lurker in the chat. Like, the problem is you not just hurting him by boycotting Counter-Strike, you're hurting the other people who had nothing to do with the crime. And I see this argument a lot when it comes to
powerful people,
but not just powerful people, but boycotts, economic boycotts.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about, like, you know, like for myself, I took a break off of the NFL the whole year. I'm not watching the NFL anymore for political and personal reasons. But the fact is, people, oh man, but what about all the people who do the journalism around it? And you're a journalist. What about, you know, if this keeps going on, people are out of work and da da da. The problem,
fuck them, let them find work somewhere else.
They got to work somewhere else because honestly,
do some other shit.
Honestly, it's not necessarily about the economics in terms of dollars and cents, and I wanna make sure this one. No, I want to make sure that I am saying economically that I refuse to give my money to people who are deviant.
Well, and if enough people were to do stuff like that, if enough people were to take a stand like that, and you actually saw economic hurt within those industries, what that says to those companies. So let's say to Valve specifically, if a lot of people, or to Counter-Strike, a lot of people decided, I'm not playing this anymore, and they see 20, 30, 40,000 people step away from it, that's going to make them take a very hard internal look and say, now what can we do to fix this?
And say we got to change.
Because you're right, it's one thing to just be like, all right, well, he's fired now, guys, come back and play our game, but they could go further. I'm not saying that they have to, but they're a big company.
But think about it like this.
They make a lot of money, and they could do a lot of good.
His voice would no longer be in the game. Point blank, period. He will only be referenced in the most in the most minimal way possible because he helped co-create the game. There's nothing anybody can do to change that. As Nate illustrated, there's nothing you could do about his royalties and what he gets.
I don't know if there's nothing that can be done.
Well,
here's
what you got. His shares.
Here's what you got to remember. Okay.
Is Valve a private company?
I don't know. Counter-Strike, okay? Counter-Strike, before it was the biggest game in the fucking world, it was a mod for Half-Life.
True.
So a lot of the source code,
is Half-Life.
Right. Valve did something very progressive at the time, and instead of shutting down that modder studio, they hired them. Now, this, you can say whatever you want about, again, we're back to vetting again. You can say whatever you want about Valve's vetting process, and, probably there is some criticism that should be leveled there. But at the same time, the fundamentals for the code that was being used for Counter-Strike was not theirs. And even if they gave them permission, I think that Valve and their army of corporate lawyers, if they wanted to, would make sure, or at least tie up every red cent that would otherwise go to this guy in court.
Pretty much.
If I was Valve, if I was Gaben, right? That's what I would be doing. That I would be in court going, this guy does not deserve another fucking check with the Valve Corporation logo on it. I don't ever want to cut it, and fuck you.
Pretty much. And that's
and again, this is all allegedly because he's not been officially booked on a crime. He's only been arrested. But the fact
convicted, because you could be charged.
That's true. That's true. But all of this is still allegedly. But again, if I had found out that I was working with someone like that, there's no way that I would let that slide. In fact, there's a former employer of mine. One of their employees had some questionable behavior raised about them at another job that they were at, and my former employer stood by him, kept him on.
Wow.
And I've told myself when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, I'm never stepping foot inside of that place ever again.
But that's what I'm saying is that, you talk about, Robbie, you were talking about like when people start to see, the numbers shift and people but see, that's the problem is that it shouldn't take for economic punishment for this to mean anything.
Right.
And I appreciate, at least at the onset, Valve saying, hey, until we get official word, he's suspended. Did they say with or without pay? It better be without pay.
They didn't say.
Because if it's with pay, I'm going to be furious.
They didn't specify.
If it's without pay, cool. And that's the first way to get out ahead of it and say, you know what? Hey, we're finding out about this just as you guys are. Because I understand that employers and corporations aren't all powerful. There is things you can hide even from your employer.
Sure.
However, I feel like when something like this comes out and you're like, hey, you're suspected of this, for me, I don't really see the issue with being like, all right, we gonna suspend you without pay, and if you get charged, you done. You done.
Not to mention that happened in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to just be like, all right, there, we've removed him, guys, blah, 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 blah. If that was me, like it still tarnished your brand at that point, right? Why would you not want to try and make that up in some way? Like that's only going to help your name, help your brand, right?
As a company,
exactly.
I think if you have an employee who is under suspicion of something like this, I think that you have to back off.
Without a doubt.
You have to. You can't stand by them. That's insane. That damages your bottom line. That damages your brand. And ethically, it compromises you, too, because it makes you look like you're harboring criminals. It makes you look like you're creating a safe environment for criminals to come and work and continue to be criminals under your company. And I'm sure that's not what Valve wants. I'm sure that's not what they want to project out there. So, okay, yeah, suspended, fine. I think with or without pay, that's an important question.
So here's what I was looking up. I was looking up because Valve is considered an LLC. And LLCs, limited liability company, whatever, they can do freeze outs. So LLC can legally freeze a stakeholder out. So essentially what they could do legally is merge and then force him to give up his shares.
It's unclear whether or not he's even a shareholder.
But I'm saying in that case, if he is a shareholder, then...
But I mean, you're talking about IP residuals. And I think that at the point that you're talking about IP residuals, if Valve can make a case that they don't actually own the IP,
right,
that's what I think is a little bit more of a powerful legal case to lay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, again,
they were working off of our source code. They were using our engine to do it. We allowed them to do it. So
essentially make the argument like, does this even belong to him?
Yeah, this was, they made it using our tools, so is this not our property?
Yeah.
Which they could have done. I mean, they could have done that back in 2003 when they officially hired the Counter-Strike team.
Is Nika dead?
I don't know. She just hasn't said anything ever.
Are you okay?
Yeah, right over
there. No, my can you hear my fan? My computer fan has started buzzing, and I'm scared that it's gonna pick up on the mic.
Nobody cares. Just
I actually care.
Okay, he cares because he has to do stuff.
No, I could hear it for a brief moment, but not terribly. No.
Yeah, because
I can't hear it now.
I muted. You can't hear it now?
No,
I can hear it. It's really loud.
I can't.
Huh? I was wondering. I was like, damn. I know there's another person here.
Shove a pencil in it. See if that helps. Oh, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
It's the worst idea.
But yeah, no, I mean, dude, if I was, like I said, if I was Gaben, I would be doing everything that I can to make
Without
sure
a doubt, because
that this guy never takes up another check.
And the thing is that this is, and I hate to put things on a scale, but this is not, you know, office romance gone bad. This is not some awkward dude approaching his female coworker and like doing it the wrong way.
No, this is
not
Jared
racial.
from Subway type shit.
Yes, this is straight up like child porn stuff. And I feel like when it comes to the other stuff, people allow, and I'm not saying I agree, but people allow themselves a certain level of mental gymnastics and wiggle room with stuff like that. Oh, we got to do an investigation in this, you know, as a company.
Sure.
I feel like when it involves children,
yeah, all bets are off.
All bets are off.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. Because if it's even like alleged, right? And this is not like you work at a school and like a kid could even go crazy. I understand that there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, dude, you're a game developer and you worked on Counter-Strike, and probably when's the last time he actually, you know, had to go into the office and shit on a daily basis? This is a motherfucker whose life was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And probably didn't have that much shit to do.
Right.
I mean, that really is very concerning that you would be accused of something that involves the abuse of children.
Yeah.
I feel you. I think Valve needs to go out extra hard and be, you know, against something like this. Extra hard.
Absolutely.
It's so fucked up.
It is. And again, you know, we keep hearing about this shit. Whether it's the game industry, whether it's Hollywood, you know, there's a real problem when we, I don't know, when we make our idols.
This was actually something
out of just, you know, very flawed human beings,
or even because this is something that you said earlier that I've been sitting here contemplating and thinking about. I've never heard of Jesse Cliff. If I heard of Counter-Strike, of course, right? And when this came to light the other day in our host chat, Nate, you know, you had mentioned, you know, why should the video game industry be any different? And when you talk about our idols, you know, doing shit like this, it's like one person sheds this terrible, disgusting light on entire companies, on entire industries, right? I idolize Marvel. Who is that exactly, though? Like those movies, you know, the stuff that they say, or if it's a game, like the stuff that Horizon Zero Dawn did. Who is it that I really idolize? Because if one person on that staff or that development team comes out and does something heinous like this,
and there's like 300 people on average that work on that game. The odds are not in your favor for everyone being a fucking saint.
Exactly. Do you remember when we talked to Alex Handy over on Checkpoint Radio? You know,
sure.
He mentioned that the reason that video games are art, and they're a complex kind of art, because so many people work on these. So many people. So
and, I mean, the same thing. The
same thing is for film.
Yeah, same thing could be said for film.
But at the same time, when it comes to stuff like this, and because those people are in such huge levels of power, have access to so many people and so many things, the problem is that someone somewhere along the line knew something and did nothing.
Yeah.
That's the only way that certain stuff proliferates. It's very, very, very hard to be a sexual assaulter and no one knows about it, because you usually sexually assault someone.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's someone you know.
And a lot of times it's someone you know.
Statistically.
And you know, the thread grows longer and longer and longer. And those people who are kind of on the periphery of stuff, who, you know, the only way that somebody could have even arrested them is because somebody said something.
Yeah.
And that means somebody was suspicious or somebody was a potential victim. And that's when it becomes, you know, it starts affecting the larger, you know, circle as a whole. Because when it came to stuff like Harvey Weinstein, there were so many fucking people that knew. And that's part of what made it so baffling and bizarre. And you realized it was a cultural systemic thing. And that's where I don't think, you know, the video game industry is that different, because
it's not.
Is fucking collaborative. And that's part of what makes it affect so many people, is because, Robbie, you and I, we contact each other once, maybe twice a week. If I was coming and sitting next to you every day, for a number of years working on a video game, there's probably some fucking weird shit that you might say every now and then. And it depends on how weird the shit that you say that I might be concerned. If you were saying something like, here's one thing that actually got said to me at work one time. It was fucking bizarre, and I checked this dude, right? And I was like, yo, I might have to get you to lead a building off rip. It's because I work at a community center, and this guy, he was just a guy visiting, I guess, going to something inside the building, and we have a lot of programs for kids and teens in the building.
Yeah,
and there was a young preteen girl, and she was just minding her fucking business, and he turns around and says to some of the other guys, yeah, give her a couple years, man. And I'm like, bro, I straight up looked at him. I was like, I straight up said, gross. Fam, get the fuck. I said, I'm at work. I'm at work, and I like audibly said, yo, get the fuck away from me, and I might have to like escort you out, bro. Like, because that's the type of shit. That's the type of little comments.
I have stories like that from FF11. I could talk your ear off all day.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's how it works, and that's how it becomes ingrained into a culture.
Yeah.
And when you hear shit like that, that's when, you know, people who are close to those individuals, instead of just writing that off as that motherfucker's just being creepy, no, there's probably some other shit going on there.
And you know, to that point, kind of bringing this back to this idea of how our idols aren't even necessarily specific peoples, but entire industries or entire companies. When we see stuff like this happen, as you know, we're seeing right now with this this Jesse Cliff stuff, right? Okay, he's been suspended or temporarily removed or whatever, and that's probably going to be where it stops, right? The growth and the movements that we've seen in the past year with Me Too, this is the people doing it, right? Like video game industry, Hollywood, like we said, hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's these individual people that are trying to push these movements, and that's great. Why aren't we also seeing that these companies at entities trying to either start initiatives or trying to create environments or an apparatus to also help facilitate
You're starting to see it a lot more in TV and film. I think it's going to be.
You're right.
I think it's going to be a lot harder to do in the video game industry based off what we just talked about earlier.
There were two actresses that went in. I think was it Jessica Chastain and.
It was a director too.
I can't remember, but like,
was it like Catherine Bigelow or something?
I know for sure. I don't know if it's related, but I know that Wonder Woman's going to be the first movie that will have a new set of rules under one of the regulatory bodies to basically help, you know, keep people safe and facilitate a safer work environment. But I don't know if that's related to the one that you guys are talking about.
No, what I was talking about, Jessica Chastain went in with Octavia Spencer, and because Octavia Spencer had told her just kind of anecdotally about how she felt like she was being underpaid for a lot of the roles that she was getting, and Jessica Chastain went in with her, and there was like a collective bargaining thing that happened where she was like, listen, if you want me to do this film, then you've got to pay Octavia Spencer more. And that, I mean, I think things like that definitely do move the needle and are something completely new, because that's taking an agent right out of the fucking picture.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
And not just because of that, but even the agents and the unions are operating off of an old paradigm.
That's true too.
So when you hear about something like Michelle Williams getting paid like $10,000 for a reshoot of a Kevin Spacey movie, when fucking, I forgot who it was, Ben Affleck or some shit, got paid $1 million to reshoot it. It was fucking Marky Mark. That's who it was.
Jesus.
Right? That was the disparity.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And like, that's what we're talking about. So it stems down from all this stuff, and somebody along the line, nobody along that line, nobody said, damn, that's fucked up.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
If you went to work, Robbie, next week, and you found out that the newest girl coming in, the newest woman being, you know, hired into your company was getting paid, you know, $5 an hour. Let's just throw minimum wage out the window.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just find out she makes, you know, $5 an hour, right?
So like half the what you make.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Take whatever you make, she makes half. Right? What do you do at that point? Because if you're somebody who's like, yeah, what exactly does she do? And she's like, oh yeah, she does the same thing you do. damn, she only make $5 an hour.
That's
If you're
fucked up.
If you're not the person who at least goes, that's kind of fucked up to your manager.
Yeah.
Then this whole shit continues to perpetuate.
I actually had something sort of similar to that happen when the girl that took my position took it over. She wasn't making as much as what I was making when I had taken it over. And I'm like, okay, this is basically all the stuff they did for me. So you need to get on the phone, and they should be doing at least that.
And that's part of it. And that's part of it. At least you stepping in or somebody stepping in and saying, hey, there's an issue. And that's how you begin to create a more positive environment. And that's what I mean when we talk about these movements and we talk about, you know, protecting kids and affording equal pay for women and all this type of stuff. It doesn't require any fucking energy beyond human decency.
Right.
Like
that's such a foreign concept to people nowadays.
Like, that's the thing. It doesn't require anything. If somebody came in, right, and Nate, you do the engineering for Checkpoint Radio. So if they came in and they say, hey, everybody makes $100,000 except for Nate. Nate, he's going to make $125,000. I'd be like, fuck yeah, because he does more work than everybody else in terms of the actual meat and potatoes of the show. What makes the show good and stuff like that from a technical point of view. Totally cool. But if we all came in and says everybody makes $110,000 besides Callie, because, you know, reasons, he's gonna make 85.
Right.
If we don't sit back and say fuck your contract,
yeah.
If we sit back and go, well, I mean, it's more than you making now, bro. Like,
it's horrible.
Yeah, if we do that, then we're fucked up and part of the problem.
Nika, you're making some faces over there. Is it the chat you're reading? You have something you want to say?
Chat's awful. Like some awful stories popping off in the chat, seriously.
Yeah, no, not really.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Anyway,
thanks for that contribution, Nika.
You're welcome. I mean, he stopped to call me out if I
gave you a chance earlier. The chat's like, let Nika talk, and she's like, I'm trying.
The chat's trying to white knight me, and I'm not asking to be white knighted, man. I don't need that right now.
Well,
okay, I got a stuffy nose and a computer fan that's going crazy. I mean, if I need to say something, I'll find a way.
I mean, but honestly, like, because we're all three dudes in a hot ass studio right now, and you're the only, you know, woman on the show right now. Like, legit, how
honestly,
when it comes to gaming,
more as a teacher than it does as a woman, just because, like, I don't know. When I think of my children, they're my babies, and I think about like all the teachers in the news that I hear that abuse kids or that sexually assault kids, and it just, I can't, like, I don't know. I can't even say it, like, grosses me out. It just, with every fiber of my being, I am like angry at these kinds of things. So when a video game company is like keeping that, or like there's a it's not even like sexually assault, but when a company like LuLaRoe just had a scandal because they like kept someone who insulted like mentally, like people with mental handicaps, and they insulted him, and then they're like, oh no, it was like Down syndrome. And so the Down syndrome organization is like, sorry, we're going to have to cut ties unless you fire this one employee. If you fire the one employee, we can keep our contract. And LuLaRoe's like, well, we don't want to throw him out to the wolves and, you know, not let him able to provide for his family. Like, where are the lines drawn?
No.
Like,
No.
Where? How can you do that?
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing is that you have the ability to be held accountable for any fucking thing you say.
Oh, yeah.
You can say whatever the fuck you want,
yeah,
but you will be held accountable.
In some way.
Get ready for the consequences.
If there was a job that went back through one of my Twitters and was like, Norris, you said this kind of problematic shit. What are we going to do about it? At that point, I would probably be the first person to reach out to the Down Syndrome Association or whatever and be like, I'm really sorry about that. That was fucked up.
Yeah.
And I apologize. Not necessarily to save my job, but just to be a decent fucking
But I feel like if you say shit like that, you should expect to lose your job. So when there's people like this within the video game community, within the geek communities, like, these people should not still be around.
Well,
and companies should not be protecting them either.
I think if someone gets arrested, that's like a totally different thing.
A tweet is totally different.
I don't really know what the context there is, but I mean, if someone said in a tweet that, oh, that's retarded, and
no, he was like outwardly talking about how people with Down syndrome are horrible or something. It was like a video he made or something.
Oh wow,
okay,
that's
you gotta
fucking
go.
horrible.
Yeah,
yeah,
something like that.
That's different. That's different.
That's
too
different.
deliberate.
Yeah.
But again, you know, I like to reference this Doug Stanhope Stanhope bit that exists out there that, he brings up a really good point that the word retarded was born out of kindness, because before retarded, it was imbecile. And the thing that we do as quote unquote normal people is that we co-opt that medical language to be able to call our friends dumb when we want to call them dumb.
Yeah.
And that's 100% true. And he's like, you can add as many fucking words and clinical definitions onto that as you want. It'll still apply. Like, ha ha, you exhibited the transaxial frontal lobal.
Right.
Like, it's the same fucking shit. And we will always do that as humans. It's a concept. I forget what it's the euphemism treadmill. That's a very real concept. And I think that the language police is definitely something to be worried about and to be concerned about, especially in the day of social media, where you can pull up something from 3 years ago and try to hold somebody accountable for that.
Right, but see, in this case, we're not necessarily...
This case is a lot different. This is different. This is going like, man, I hate how they drool on the fucking subway. Like, stop it. You're a fucking douche if you're doing that.
But not even just that. But even when we talk about the language police and all this other type of stuff, people are going back and looking at these tweets and looking at events, looking at people saying things that happened. I think when we're talking about Me Too, it's a little bit different than what we were talking about when it came to like the decency police of the past few years, right? Because when you're talking about Me Too, you're seeing people talk about events and make accusations.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a totally different thing from people just saying wild shit about disadvantaged people. I think that's different. Even when like certain people say crazy like racist shit, right? I think it's like, okay, that motherfucker's a racist. I ain't gotta follow them. I ain't gotta get them none of my attention, XYZ. But when somebody comes out with an event that says they did something racist, or they denied, people of color a job or women a job, that's totally different.
That is a different thing. You're right. You're totally
I
right.
think it is important for us to make that distinction and not always get caught up in, oh, here come the Twitter police. Here come the we got to make sure that we're careful of that, because I agree with you, Nate. I think free speech is absolutely important, and we got to make sure that we understand context. Because if I'm talking to you and we're, you know what I'm saying, playing the dozens, going at each other and whatnot, and you say, oh man, you're retarded, right? I'm not going to sit back and be like, oh my God.
You're not going to clutch the pearls.
Personally, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, I will also tell you, yeah, dude, probably don't do that in public. Because we have a context, we have an understanding.
Right.
So,
at the same time, I'm very much a big believer in own the shitty things that you're going to say.
That too.
If somebody called me out, if I said it in public, I'm doing so knowing that I could be called out on it, and that if I am, I'm prepared to defend myself.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's got to be an element to it too, because that's important to know how you're using language. And if someone comes at you and goes, "Hey, I have a retarded brother," that's offensive, and you go, "Hey, I wasn't trying to talk about your brother." And you can talk about things like euphemism treadmills, and you know what? Maybe it won't save the situation and that person thinking that you're an asshole, but at least you know why you're using the words that you're choosing to use.
Exactly.
And
so that's incredibly important.
And especially when it comes to very loaded language like racist language, racial language, sexist or sexual language.
Yeah.
I have used the word faggot on not that many occasions, but I was called a faggot a lot growing up because I was bullied a lot. And I am not shy about using I'm not going to say, well, they used to call me the F word. No, they called me a faggot, and they, fucking slammed my head into garbage cans because of it. You know what I mean?
But it's kind of like how CNN didn't shy away from the shithole thing.
Exactly.
The word itself is important to the context of telling a story.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's important that we don't begin to shy away from language. You know what I mean?
And to fully contextualize kind of the comedy bit that a lot of that comes from. It's the Dave Chappelle, that's just white people getting away with saying nigger on television, right? Like, that's what the N-word is in that definition. But at the same time, you know, like, if you're talking about a story and that's the crux of the story, generally the news does not shy away from that shit.
Here was the problem, because CNN was guilty of it before when they had a debate and they said, what's the worst term, the N-word or cracker?
Right.
You've answered your own fucking question.
Exactly.
Because you didn't even bother to print nigger.
Right.
Like, and I get it. It's a hurtful word. It's a word loaded in history. I hate it. But, well, no, I don't hate it when I use it. It's complicated. But the point is that I understand. You know, again, Nate, you said, but I understand that you're saying it in the context of the story. So I understand that you're not saying it as a slur. You're not saying it to hurt people.
Right.
And that's what I think is important for us to do, is to understand that, you know, language has context. And once we peel back...
It's like the Patton Oswalt bit, you know? Like, where you've got two guys and one of them saying all the politically correct stuff, but he's an evil shithole. And then you've got the other guy who's like saying, like, yeah, but why can't the fags and dykes get married if they want? You know, like, he's not saying the right colorful language, but his heart is in the right place.
Right.
And you've got to be able to navigate the difference. You can't just hear the words and react to them. That makes you, I think, fundamentally weak. That's something that George Carlin talks about, where if you recoil at a word, that if words can actually hurt you, then that whole bullshit that we've been talking about colloquially, sticks and stones, for the last 40 fucking years doesn't apply. So we've got to know how to use language to be able to navigate difficult situations and not shy away from it, and know that when people use correct terms that they're supposed to be using, they can still have negative intentions. You've got to be able to navigate all of that shit.
And it's all also, you know, personal choice and personal virtue. You know, like, you talked about faggot. That's something I don't say ever. That's probably the first time I've said it in years. But I have to, because if I say the F word, people have no fucking clue what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But the point is that it's something that I actively choose not to use because of experiences in my life and shit, and people that I'm close to. So it's a personal choice.
But you're also in our host chat where we you know, throw stuff around. I use it every once in a while in the most inappropriate context that I can figure out how to use it. Because, like, you know, like Chris will be like, yeah, I got to do something with my family and my baby, and I'll be like, faggot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so inappropriate.
Everyone laughs.
It's so inappropriate because A, it's unexpected. B, it's like, wow, that escalated.
It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't even make sense. And it's
but again, that's
what makes it funny.
But again, that's our private chat amongst people who all understand the context.
Right.
And again, that's the problem, is that stop putting private contextual things into your public space. That's the thing. Like, it's so dumb, because I can't control what the fuck people say about each other in private. Nobody can. Whatever. I'm not trying to take that away from you.
Right.
However, when the very moment you go on Twitter and you make, like, public tweets about stuff,
right?
Like,
that's different. It's a different
totally
thing.
Different. And you'll be held accountable. And
if not now, at some point,
you open yourself up to people getting at you.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why people don't understand that concept. However, here's the thing that is important, is that the moment you become quote unquote powerful, when you're in a position that your words affect, Robbie, as you said, hundreds upon thousands of people, you got to be some new kind of fool to go out there and say this type of shit, at least not be conscious. Dude, some of my favorite people who have become recently, like, famous or popular or whatever, they'll be the first ones to be like, dude, the fucking 3 years ago, my chat is awful.
Yeah.
Like, straight up and down, and say, I've said some wild shit in the past I am not proud of.
Yeah.
If you can have that enough self-awareness like that, then I feel like, all right, cool, you're a human being, and if some shit comes out about your tweets 5 years down the line, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's
'Cause
hard.
we all said it.
That's hard to hold somebody accountable for. If it was a tweet that you issued yesterday, that's a different thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to have to leave the discussion right there. Thanks, Norris, for joining us today. You going to stick around for Limit Break Radio?
Yeah, I'll be around.
All right, so make sure you stick around for Limit Break Radio. Coming up next here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio, we've got the Checkpoint podcast. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. No callers today, unfortunately, but
I didn't see you.
But you know what? That's okay. I think we had enough to talk about on our own, so we didn't even need you. But if you do want to call in to Final Encountercast, just make sure that you tune in live on Sundays for episodes of the Final Encountercast, which will end up becoming the Let's Be Real podcast in just now. Officially 3 episodes.
Oh, snap.
All right, guys, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thanks so much. I want to thank my crew, Robbie and Nika, and our special guest, Norris. I'm Nate. Have a good one. Final Encountercast is a production of FinalEncountercast.com and Limit Break Radio and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Nate Bender, Callie Sloan, and Kooky Persona. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content.